onto, I think, our biggest panel of the day and perhaps of the summit. Rama, you brought the party here to the HITLAB Innovator Summit. Someone was going to bring it eventually, and I'm glad it was you. So I'm going to turn over to you, Rama, and we're going to be hearing from this monster panel of technology strategy for high growth life science companies. So Rama, take it away.
Thanks, Jerry. And once again, I'd like to thank HITLAB for the opportunity to let us present about the technology strategies that high growth companies may wish to emulate. And in this panel, I'll be having Dr. Cahana, who will be moderating it. By way of background, I'm the CEO and founder of Bloqcube. And Bloqcube is one of the pioneers in the application of distributed ledger blockchain technology for clinical trial software systems. We call ourselves a clinical trial management and financial system. And we are in the business of accelerating clinical trials. We have a very esteemed panel over here. And in a moment, you'll hear from them. But what we've done is to balance it by having an expert from regulatory, an expert from clinical and blockchain, and two leaders of very high growth, mid-sized life science companies to share their thoughts on the subject. With that, I'd like to turn it over in the interest of time and your time to Dr. Cahana to moderate and kick us off. Alex.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Rama, for the kind introduction. And I welcome the panel and encourage, of course, the participants to put in the Q&A anything of interest. This is actually part 2 of our session that we started on day 1, discussing about what decentralized clinical trials actually is as a next generation of clinical trials and the need to accelerate and improve the operations. And so in this panel, we'll actually have the folks that are building this on the ground and explaining how this works. And so we'll start with Tim on really the what. What is this? If you could explain a little bit about your company, the platform, what you had in mind, and give the audience a little bit feeling of the features that they have that makes what you're doing a next generation application. So go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, thanks, Alex, and thanks everyone on the panel, and for everyone who's participating today. It's a pleasure. My name is Tim Bledsoe. I'm one of the co-founders of Next Stage Clinical Research, and we're a platform that stretches from Australia to Mexico and across the United States, working with high acuity private practice doctors and integrating research into their practices. We've been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to work with Rama, with Bloqcube, and really to leverage the technology and the bandwidth of it to do a number of things that we feel are very meaningful for our business, for our customers, and for the protection of our customers. And some of those things that I want to kind of highlight, really is around one, data integrity. The integrity of the platform of the data is one of the most critical things here. The other thing that we found as you have a growing business like we have, and the ecosystem is continuing to evolve, is the ability for things to be customizable and to adopt and to change as time goes on. And I think that customization component to what Rama and the Bloqcube team offer, really with this technology and platform, really makes a distinct difference and advantage, and makes it something that's very special for us to be able to use. And I think also it's a very, very efficient tool, and I don't use the word tool lightly, in how we're able to conduct our business, how we're able to analyze our business, and how we're able to best serve our customers all the way around. And those are the things that we found very, very quickly and early on that have made a huge difference for us in our experience in working with Bloqcube and Rama and his incredible team.
Thank you so much, Tim. And on our second round of questions, we'll kind of dive maybe a little bit deeper into that. But as you're telling what is this, Kevin, could you give the audience a little bit of a feel of why are we doing this? Because everything is good, life is perfect. Why do we need change? So give us the audience a little bit of sense of what are the motors behind the need to move into a next generation clinical trial management system.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Hey, everyone, Kevin Coker with Proxima Clinical Research. My company serves emerging biotech and medtech companies. We provide clinical trial services for those companies, mainly project management, data management, and financial management as well. We do serve the emerging biotech and medtech markets. So the main thing for us is costs, and it really is about trying to be very judicious with the sponsors' money, because these clinical trials are expensive, as we know, and especially for smaller companies, it can be very challenging to run a trial. So costs are the main thing that we're always concerned about. And particularly, we can dive deeper into this later, but the things that drive those costs are data monitoring and having to send people out to sites to acquire and monitor that data, as well as the financial reconciliation headaches. Those are things that we don't get paid for, but we invest a tremendous amount of time and effort. And there's the efficiency and the security and all of that. But for me, and I think for the people that we represent, it's all about cost for us, Alex.
Well, I think that no money, no mission, right? So it's very important to talk about, okay, the acceleration of clinical trials has, of course, an economic impetus behind that, and we'll kind of learn a little bit later about the financial modules that are on and the features about that. But moving to environmental pressures on how to do this, Tim, you spoke a bit about the what, and Kevin about the why. PK, could you share a little bit about, from your perspective and knowing the regulatory forces that are out there, how do you foresee this being done? How do you see this transition into decentralized clinical trials?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Prem Narang. Thanks for having me on this panel. So generally speaking, as we have heard, or most of the people who are listening to this HITLAB BTA symposium, that they have heard the emphasis the regulators are generally placing on any clinical testing that is being done. So anybody who's involved with development of a product is tackling certain issues which may be related to bringing in diversity into the game plan, inclusion of people in the game plan, making clinical trials accessible to populations where access is difficult. So all the evolving digital technologies are trying to tackle some of these issues. And then for regulators, data integrity is obviously of prime importance, because they use the data to make risk-benefit decisions for product approval or for whatever claims businesses may want for their products. So I think any technology that helps you move in that direction in a smooth manner leads to better and better decentralization and makes testing more centric towards patients, where patients start playing a more significant role in not only providing data to sponsors, but also being able to leverage what gains may come out of providing that data to them. So regulators in general are on board, and I think several guidances that are evolving around diversity, inclusion, and making sure your labeling at the end of the day is appropriately managed for how clinical trials are done. So I think those are the driving forces. You know, if you consider the GDPR or privacy things that are evolving and how data is used and processed is another way to look at it. How one takes a piece of information gathered at one place and then it gets moved out to different places in collaborative efforts. And so regulators are kind of involved in those spaces too, in those business models. So I think that as those things are evolving, there'll be a need for technologies that provide you access and simple, efficient solutions to manage those things.
Great, great. So it's great to point out that actually we have a educated, awakened, I wouldn't say woke, but awakened regulatory environment, and so that is good. So let me just kind of go back, and we'll do one round, and then we'll let Rama say a few words and finish this very quick but deep session. Tim, share with us, because you were talking about how it's, all these new features being personable and customizable and bespoke and all that. What excites you? What is a game changer? What is, like, I know we're supposed to love all our kids the same, but from all the features, what is like the thing that you say, oh my God, this is going to really fundamentally change the way we do things to the benefit of the participants and of course the companies?
Can I have two?
You have two. Okay, go for it.
All right. So the first one is on the financial model. The financial modeling component of this technology platform is fantastic, and it's unique. And I think it's a very, very special piece to this. It makes it it's a problem that is being solved here, and I think that's number one. The second one, so it's going to allow us to be able to analyze and manage our business better and more efficiently. The second one is on the e-consent side. The e-consent piece to this platform and this technology is very, very, very much going to be a game changer, especially as we continue to shift more into the decentralized environment. And what has been put in place here makes it safe, makes it easy, makes it efficient, but also makes for a better mousetrap. Not all technology is always better, but in these cases, these are solutions that really do provide a solution that makes sense.
Tim, could you say just a few words about what that e-consent really is, or how does that look like? Because I think most of us are just old enough to remember the consent form of I'm signing something that I have no idea what I'm signing on in English that I don't understand. So what is the core or the magic of the e-consent that you see both on the front end and on the back end?
Well, let's talk about the back end first, because I think the ability for it to be stored electronically and in the cloud versus having something that's on paper, it makes it much easier for the sponsor. Anytime that we're going paperless, as I've got a piece of paper in front of me, it is always a better solution. But I think the other piece is that it allows for the patient to have a much more simplistic approach. It's going to be consistent in the delivery each time. And I think it makes for, again, a more repeatable, especially as we have more and more physicians doing research, it makes for a much more repeatable process that we know is going to be the same each time.
Amazing, amazing, and well said. Well said. It kind of gives a sense of why are we doing this. And so, Kevin, to you, you emphasize the cost pressures, the time pressures. What would that impact in that sense? Someone's having background noise. If you can unmute.
It's probably me.
That's okay. So no, definitely don't mute. But the financial impetus in this. How do you see DCT changing or modifying or improving the business model behind it?
Yeah. So to me, it comes down, and hopefully you can hear me okay. But it really comes down to the blockchain component of this software. you could go out and look and find a number of software systems. You know, just Google it and find these. But at the end of the day, they're not much more than Excel spreadsheets or data management pieces with dashboards. But this solution has a true blockchain component to it to allow you know, smart contracts between parties to verify the data. So why is that important? It's important because for the first time, at least in my experience of doing things, I can verify that a blood test was done at one of Tim's sites at Next Stage. And if I know that that blood test was done, it was done appropriately, I can then essentially pay Tim and pay his sites immediately or within a time period, rather than have to wait months and months and months, and then come up with a tremendous amount of a log waiting for a human being to then report back to me what's been done and what hasn't been done. And that human has a number of errors as well. And so the whole process of clinical research is fraught with this this inefficiency, and software helps with that. But the blockchain component is the most important piece, because that allows us to verify and validate the transactions that are happening and make us secure in being able to that data is accurate, that the event has happened, that there's a log and ledger for it, and then we can essentially you know, pay those sites if necessary, or transact in however we need to transact, whether that's a data migration or a data lock, or whether it's a financial reconciliation. The blockchain component is the most important piece to this.
Well, I appreciate that answer, although you did use the B word, blockchain. So I don't know, you know, like who are the folks in the audience kind of saying, if you can mute yourself, Kevin. There's some folks, you know, that are thinking on the audience, oh, I'm not going to use that Bitcoin, crypto, FTX stuff. But to your point, what you described basically is the use of an encrypted, tamper-proof, time-stamped, audible, you know, verifiable database, where if you pay me $20, you know that me is me, $20 is $20. And today we're Thursday, December 1st. So that's, I think, a great point to be made, although we're not using the B word. So that's great. Moving ahead to PK, you know, we have, like I said, awakened but not woke regulatory officials. Could you give us a sense of, in their mind, is the regulatory atmosphere permissive or prohibitive? Are they sitting at home trying to come up with ideas of telling, you know, Rama, Tim, and Kevin what not to do? Or are they kind of creating a sandbox to experiment and make this a more inclusive, better world?
So I think if somebody has a few minutes sometime and they're getting bored with life, you can go to the FDA website and actually pick up on this theme of what they're doing in blockchain. There are some interesting things that they're trying to do to develop better platforms that may be driven by the B word, blockchain. So they are actually getting into that area slowly. I think I may have mentioned this to some of you at some time, that you know, they ran a project where they did a recall of a product made by a manufacturer, and they wanted to see how efficiently that could be managed when you have a manufacturer involved with it, a distributor like Walmart involved with it, and the product is sitting everywhere. So how do you keep these people in line and in tune when a FDA issues a recall for that product? And they said generally that recall and making sure all people are appropriately informed where the product is sitting, it used to take 3 to 4 days. I mean, this is like the conclusion from this report. And they said they were able to do it in less than 15 seconds or a minute. So, I mean, generally speaking, there are a lot of efficiencies that the FDA is trying to highlight with certain projects like that. And they're working with industry, obviously. But I'm reasonably sure they're not sitting around at night trying to come up with how to create more roadblocks, but they are creating certain situations to push the sponsors in certain directions, like with more inclusive, enhanced access to medication and testing and all of that stuff. So,
well, I love PK your cautious optimism and attributing niceness, and there's no Machiavellian ideas behind it. With a few minutes left, what I would like to do is I would like to give Rama an opportunity to actually answer directly Rich Carpenter's question: does decentralized CRO include the home? And what is it about doing the home? And I think that with that question, Rama can allude to exactly when we say decentralized, what do we mean? Because I think that, and Rama will correct me, there are kind of like two interpretations to that. So Rama, please, a few words about, when you say you love me, what does that really mean? So when you say decentralization, what does that really mean?
Thanks, Alex. If there's one word in the past 18 months or 24 months that has shot off like a rocket, it's DCT, or decentralized trials. Now, in my view, it's basically a misnomer, the way it is characterized right now. Yes, it is extremely important to take trials to a patient's home, because that's one way in which we bridge across when we start thinking about diversity and equity in trials. Having said that, if you look at the true nature of decentralized trials today, it's how do we use Zoom, telehealth, et cetera, which is all very, very good steps today. And that's why, going back to the question asked, that's very feasible with technology today. Having said that, if we then sit back and ask ourselves a more philosophical question, that how to turn everybody from being a healthcare consumer into a healthcare producer and moving control structures to patients in the true meaning of patient centricity, then the current definition may come out a little short. In my view, what a really decentralization would be is, let's say there is a rare disease, parents of kids having a rare disease, and the 10 of them, and they want to come together and do a clinical trials which will help to create some sort of data which will help their kid. And in today's world, they'll have to go up the research food chain to hopefully a pharma and biotech company to kind of get it done. In a true decentralized way, they would be able to collaborate with different participants who are equally vested in the solution to come up with answers in terms of clinical trial data, which is needed. In addition, the infrastructure would permit them then to own the data, monetize it, turn it into a digital assets. So that is where I see the vision of true decentralization in clinical trials.
That's a very I think important distinction, because I agree with you that decentralized has become the probably only positive buzzword in healthcare for decentralization, except that they're using it incorrectly. So I'm kind of like my joy is mitigated. But what you're talking about is not. It's almost like we're moving from a patient-centric system to a patient-driven system. And so it almost sounds like the use in a patient-centric system is that decentralized means decentralized from a process perspective. It's not at the hospital, it's at home, it's virtual, it's remote, it's all the new technologies that are coming up. But what you're talking about is really about the data management, data storage, data ownership. They're saying, oh, look at this radical idea that actually I walked 10,000 steps today, and those steps belong to me. And then I can be incentivized to adhere to the protocol, adhere to the trial, and all that. So I think that's a wonderful distinction, and thanks for clarifying. rapid round before we finish. So 2 minutes max each. I'll start with Tim. Decentralization is good because it's good to patients, it's good to the field, it's good to the company. Because what is your view as the CEO of Proxima?
Decentralized DCT is good because, you know, efficiency is king, and life is busy. And when I say efficiency is king for patients first and foremost. Efficiency is key for our sponsors to be able to move efficiently. Efficiency is key for our people because they have responsibilities and things that they have to take care of. I think ultimately at the end of the day, efficiency and then the safety associated with that really drives success and the ability to repeat as we go forward.
And what was hard? What is like the major challenge that you see ahead? The hurdle, the changing of the minds that needs to happen?
Well, I think technology adoption in general can be hard. Change is tough. We've gone through a lot of change over the last couple of years. If you think back a number of years ago, I mean, you know, cell phones were a thing in the past. Now everybody's got one. And I think, you know, it's going to be technology integrating to drive rapid adoption. I think that's what's going to will really solve for that. Right now, there's a lot of technologies that don't necessarily communicate. And I think that integration will make it easier. But I also think that, you know, you have to take this one step at a time. You got to have some success that has to be proven out. And then it will continue to grow and evolve. And I think that's what's fantastic with this, with this platform and why we're so excited to be a part of it, working with them.
Well, I love it. I love it. And I love, you know, thank you for building it. And thanks for doing what you're doing in the field. Kevin, for you, what, you know, decentralized is good because?
Well, I don't know if I have one word, but, you know, 2 years ago when COVID hit, multiple different sponsors just pivoted into COVID, therapeutics, diagnostics, software and digital health. And you had this, it put pressure on people like us. They came to us and said, we need to execute on a clinical trial and we need to start it in 2 to 3 weeks. Well, that's unheard of in my industry. We always talk about trial startups that take, you know, at least 3 months, sometimes 6 months. So our industry did not operate in a way to address the pandemic. And so when people started to adopt technology, particularly for COVID, it forced us to work in a very different way. We deployed electronic solutions out to the sites. We shipped iPads if they needed iPads or tablets. We embedded technology solutions. We went from 6 months of opening a trial to 3 weeks. And so there was all types of things that changed with COVID. Then rational people started saying, why can't we do this all the time? Why do we have to do it for COVID? Can't we do it for everything? And so now the focus is to apply this technology to all things, not only on trial startup or financial reconciliation, but finding patients where they're at. Patients, if they're participating on a trial, they don't want to have to come into the doctor's office every single time to answer a questionnaire or to get vital signs taken. We can capture this information outside the clinic now. We know this. Those days are over. And so we need solutions that allow us to do that. So it is about patient convenience and about efficiency and you know, letting the patient drive the car.
Yeah, no, I love it. Thank you. And you know, you are so right when you say COVID accelerated everything, because I remember when COVID started and everybody said it's horrible news, you know, I would get phone calls. Okay, Dr. Cahana, that thing you were talking about, a few years ago, blockchain, maybe we should revisit. So definitely COVID has been an accelerant in understanding that tech is really not so much about the interoperability, but about the intercooperability of all the stakeholders and the business model that is under it. So PK, last words. DCT is good because
I think the opportunities afforded by this technology will bring in a much greater level of collaboration, which is needed in the community, society, drug development, managing rare diseases. I was just reading that Rare Disease Cures Accelerator, which is managed by Critical Path Institute, just signed a joint agreement with a pharmaceutical company called Ultragenyx. Same thing, the data are few in rare diseases and people have to collaborate if you want to build appropriate data sets to figure out how to solve these problems.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very important point, in this data-rich environment that we're in. I know every day I kind of, or at least every week, I look at, how much data is out there, and there was like 175 exabytes or I don't know what, and it's just growing. Yeah. We're suffering from data illiquidity. We're not suffering from lack of data. Yeah. There are tons of, but they're just in their silos and in their lakes or pools or whatever you want to call them, and they're not moving and they have no value and they don't contribute. And especially when you're talking about rare and orphan diseases, that's where this becomes, you really leverage that, yeah. To all the people who have, this DCT deficiency syndrome. So Rama, with 2 minutes left, decentralization is good because
it will help high growth companies like Kevin's, Proxima, or Tim's next stage to even fly higher, faster, and further. It will help our patients who are right now unable to access care and access studies even more. So today, for example, I've heard in the US, there are only 8% of cancer patients who participate in trials. And there are trials that go begging. Now, if somebody is a cancer patient wanting to participate in a trial in West Virginia and wants to, turn that into an asset for themselves, DCT may well be the way to go. Not just the first mile, which is where today's structures are, but up to the last mile, which is where the patient becomes a producer of the data.
Well, I appreciate those remarks, and you've been working hard for years now together with PK on pushing forward this type of thinking. And I know it's hard and sometimes might be lonely, but I think that, what was it, about 2 weeks ago, we celebrated 8 billion people on the planet. And definitely this decentralization will be able easier because it's distributed by nature to reach out to all 8 billion, and not just here in an advanced economy, but also in most places of the world where we have emerging markets and developing economies. They can benefit from the research and discovery that is accelerated and available for them. So with that, I hope that, 10 years from today, people will say, oh, did you know that in 2022, they were still doing, centralized clinical trials, and DCT will be the norm. But I want to thank you for your excellent work and your commitment to push forward the envelope. And I'm giving back the mic and the floor to Jerry, and thank HITLAB for just giving the opportunity to share the good news with the audience. Thank you.